Netflix is mostly ass. We all agree on that. And if you don't, refer to my previous video here. But I'm not here to talk about Netflix, but rather one of its biggest titles to date, Black Mirror. Once upon a time, Black Mirror was actually my favorite show, believe it or not. It's an anthology sporting dark, insidious storylines about near-future technology and how it reflects poorly on humanity as a whole. The first 3 seasons were some of the most gut-churning pieces of media on television, so much so that Netflix just had to do what they do best and buy the IP. Now, whether or not that was for better or worse is up for discussion, as some of the seasons after they signed with the popular streaming service were lackluster, to say the least. But regardless, I've stuck with the show up till this point. Now today I want to go over the recently released 6th season and how it compares to the previous ones. Did it get its swag back, or is it just the same level of meh as it was in the last season? Let's get into it.
Could you open the door for me, please?
Now, episode 1 for season 6, Joan is Awful, is an interesting episode to say the least. With probably one of the biggest celebrity cast appearances, Salma Hayek, Annie Murphy, Avi Nash, Rob Delaney, and that's just scratching the surface of some of the biggest celebrities that were on this thing. In the past, I used to get really annoyed when I saw celebrity cast appearances on Black Mirror specifically, because the anthology series is at its strongest when you're able to immerse yourself in the idea that this is just some random guy that's doing these things. I don't want to see Justin Bieber living a regular middle-aged man life in a regular middle-aged man house in a regular middle-aged, especially with stories like these that are trying to be so authentic. But I must say that Joan is Awful made it an interesting twist to the entire idea, making these celebrity cast members really stick in an intriguing way. A staple for Black Mirror has always been their weird twist endings, and this one does not hold back with that concept. There's a lot of meta, mind-bending craziness that happens in this episode that I was all the way here for. The concept of somebody else living your day-to-day life and then having it projected for everyone to see on Netflix is one of those concepts that, when you think about it, could be done awfully. No pun intended. But with some great writing and some great societal juxtaposition, I left impressed that Charlie Brooker was able to pull this off.
Where somebody had said, Black Mirror is written by one stoned British dude who just says things like, what if your mum ran on batteries? And that's not a million miles away from the truth.
I like that this episode didn't overstay its welcome on a concept that we kind of already understand halfway into the movie. And most importantly, it was a great starter for the season itself. The one and only thing that I said after this was finished was that I hoped for a more dark, Black Mirror-esque ending. When I watch Black Mirror, I want to be so afraid that I can't even go to sleep. I'm quivering in my timbers. That's the energy that the past seasons actually exuded. Which was ironic because the next episode just happened to be what I was asking for. For those of you interested in watching the show, I want to make sure that I'm not spoiling anything when going into this episode, so I'm gonna praise this cautiously. This might be one of my favorite episodes in the entire series. I love it when this show decides not to go too deep into the future with their technology and say, hey, we are living right now in a day and age where technology can be dangerous. And this is a great example of that point. A young couple travel to a sleepy Scottish town to work on a nature documentary, but find themselves drawn to a juicy local story involving shocking events of the past. This episode has mystery, it has the dark overtones of a Black Mirror episode, some supple yet effective celebrity cast appearances that ultimately ends up being one of the best casted episodes of the series, for sure, with a surprising twist ending that leaves me quivering in my timbers just like I asked for. This episode specifically seemed to feed off of the idea of fear. For most of the episode, you feel like you're watching a horror film, waiting for some monster to pop up out of the shadows. But as the episode continues, you start to realize that the monsters are among us. Among us! I'm gonna leave it at that for this episode. Definitely go and watch this, even if you haven't watched any of the previous episodes. This perfectly displays the concept of Black Mirror without overstepping its boundaries or drawing too much into SFX. We'll watch again, we'll watch several times with other individuals, and I'm excited to do so as well. Next episode. The third episode of the season, Beyond the Sea, saw the series go a little bit more sci-fi and in the realm of what they usually do. First things first, I want to praise the FX used in this episode. I know that they have a lot of money now that they're signed with Netflix and they've had a lot of big deals, but it's still very cool to see that they're not selling themselves short when it comes to the FX. Beyond the Sea is about an alternative 1969, where two men on a perilous high-tech mission wrestle with the consequences of an unimaginable tragedy. Again, I don't want to spoil anything for this episode, as it's definitely a very strong episode, with a celebrity cast appearance of Aaron Paul. Now, I am a huge Breaking Bad fan. It is my second favorite show right behind Atlanta, and I have to say this is one of Aaron Paul's strongest performances. If you've watched the channel, you know I don't like to kiss up to things just to kiss up to them. I wouldn't say that Aaron Paul had an Emmy nomination deserving performance in this episode if I didn't mean it. Kate Mara is another celebrity cast member that I have to shout out for this episode, delivering an amazing performance that again helped the immersion more than it hurt it. The conflict between Cliff and David in this was definitely easy to see coming, I won't lie. I kind of generally knew how the plot points were gonna move for this before I even started it, or at least once I understood the concept. But something that we have to remember when it comes to entertainment is that predictability doesn't have to be a bad thing. I've seen some very simple, predictable storylines that are executed perfectly, and because of that, it becomes a cult classic.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
The concepts of identity theft and infidelity that are explored in this episode are amazing, and once again shows a great writing performance from Charlie Brooker. Charlie has always been great at writing these bottle episodes. I think there was only 3 or 4 locations where this episode was shot, and that's not an easy thing to write. A lot of creators rely on adventure and seeing different worlds as their main base point for what they create, and I'm not shaming them for that in any way, shape, or form, but when somebody is able to accomplish a lot with a little, it tends to go a little further in the viewer's eye. Anyways, let's go on to the next episode. I'm already finding it extremely difficult to not spoil this. I just want to spoil everything. Maisie Day and Demon 69. I wanted to group these last 2 episodes of the season into one part, mainly because I have similar critiques for both. Once again, I'm not going to go too much into detail as to not spoil these things, but I want to start off by saying that both episodes definitely had strong performances. That's not where I had a problem with them. Zazie Beetz did amazing in Maisie Day, and Anjana Vasan also did very well in her role too. My main struggle with these 2 episodes is that they tend to go a little bit off the marker of what a Black Mirror episode is. Charlie Brooker did say that he was going a little bit more experimental when it came to this season.
The show has lots of different flavors across a series, and this time around I've sort of pushed that to its extremes, I think.
And that's always exciting for creators to do, but however, for this anthology specifically, I argue that going too far from the future technology idea can get a bit dicey. When it comes to anthology series, it's very important that you focus on your brand. What makes this anthology sci-fi series different from this anthology sci-fi series? And in Black Mirror's case, it's the future technology, or the technology in general. So when they stray from this path, it's not like I feel like the episode is bad, but it takes me out of the essence of Black Mirror. And because of that, I stop realizing what I'm watching. Am I watching an episode of Room 104, or am I watching an episode of Love, Death, and Robots? It's hard to see its identity. Again, that's not to say I didn't enjoy these episodes. I actually really enjoyed both of them, especially Demon 79. But it does mean that this would be lower on my list of must-watch Black Mirror episodes that I would recommend to a friend. They definitely came lower on my list for this season, and I'll leave it at that. Overall, a very strong season. I left this season saying, hey, Black Mirror is back. I had a problem with both of the previous 2 seasons as they either tried too hard or tried too little, but season 6 finally felt like the return to form that we all asked for. Congratulations to Charlie, congratulations to everybody who worked on this project, and I cannot wait for season 7. I hope that they actually filmed in advance because they've been gone since 2019. Let's see if they're going to be able to climb their way back to the top of my personal list. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you like the video, subscribe if you want to subscribe. I release videos every Sunday. I'm going to go break every electronic object in my house and say that I'm woke. Or maybe I might just go eat something. I don't know. Sounds a little bit extra to do all that. I still gotta edit this bitch.